Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, who's Alice?
I don't see an Alex. Is that Mr.
Alice
Hello?
came up, then went off.
Oh, here we go.
There's Brian.
Hello.
There's Charlie. Okay.
Oh, are we in romper room?
I don't think so.
All right, are we at 6:30 yet?
Oh yeah, 6:33.
Yeah, it's
All right,
after.
we're gonna call the meeting to order. First thing, you guys got, there's no minutes, by the way. So we don't have to approve minutes. I didn't do them. I'm fessing up. So next time. Okay, first on the agenda for tonight is the marketing plan action steps. Where do we go from here with this wonderful marketing plan that we have? So I did take a few minutes today and reviewed the plan, reviewed some stuff from the OCD plan, that I like to call it, and came up with some action steps. This is draft, so I want input, feedback. It's basically how do we move forward to get everybody on board. Leslie, are you in a position to take notes?
I was just gonna ask if you wanted me to take minutes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you record?
Recording?
Yeah, you are.
Oh, thank you, because I can't tell.
Yeah, I see it.
So, and some of the things when they read, if you read the plan, how they worded it, it was hard to know if they were, unless you were pretty intimate with our site and our social media, whether they were talking about what they did do's and don'ts, but I was uncertain on a couple items of whether they're saying you're doing this wrong and you should be doing it this way, because they gave us best practices. So I did send a quick email to Brian and Chris today, just on a couple of things, which I think I know the answer to, but I wanted them to say, no, you are doing this wrong, or you are doing that right. So obviously our website should clearly represent the town of Thompson. I'm sure we can agree that consistent branding, photos, color schemes that represent both residents and out-of-towners, that they can easily identify as Thompson. So one of the first things they suggest is incorporate the new logo into our website banner. Right now, it's got the town of Thompson, Connecticut with the seal. The other thing is, I noticed your social media links, they're recommending that they be at the footer. We happen to have Facebook at the top. They're saying it should be down below. So we can talk about that and see how people feel, or one way or another about that. The other thing they recommend is working on prioritizing the information that residents seek out the most using Google Analytics, which I know we haven't done. So I know that one was geared directly for us. And consider providing a frequently asked questions page based on the results of the analytics. So I don't think that's very difficult to do. I think we can get that done. Review that the department pages have a consistent look, a link to each department and staff directory. Each department should have a short descriptor, phone and emails. And this is one thing that they said creates more of a hassle, and I agree, because when I go in and I want to find an email and they say, oh, please fill out this form, it's aggravating. You want to get to the person you need. It's an online contact form, right? And you all probably seen ours, and if you haven't, that's basically what it is. You're not getting right to the person that you think you need.
The reason why a lot of times you don't list emails on your website, Renee, and this is maybe a question for, I don't know who would ask, but maybe Chris in IT, is that people will take your email address and then you'll get added to spam lists, or it's like a cybersecurity thing, because I know I had my email address listed at my last position and they changed it into, so it's hidden, you know what I mean? So it just has my name and it links to it, but I don't know. I would ask Chris about it. Sometimes when
You just click on a hotkey so you don't actually see the email address.
Right, you don't actually see it. So yeah, we can talk to Chris about how to do it. But I don't like those contact forms. In fact, I actually was on a website today and it had a contact form, and I spent an extra, like 3 minutes finding the email address so that I.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. When we developed the website, the new version, one of the strong personalities, and she has a lot of background knowledge on websites, was Allison. And it was about the whole spam thing and the security. And she was adamant that we not have the emails. But I think if there's a way to hide them, I would prefer that. So we'll work on that. Departments and administrators need to review for outdated information with more regularity. A good practice is for each department to conduct an audit of their own pages and report back to administration what needs to be updated if it's something they don't have authorization to edit. It seems to happen haphazard. So somebody happened to see, the library hours, of course, they got changed due to COVID, and they never got changed on the website. And that's another discussion because we have multiple, bigger departments who have their own website. So that, I know it's more difficult now. They have to upkeep two, so I think, anyway, that's a step that we have to incorporate, I believe.
All right, and I like that. I think I'm going to add it to the agenda for EDC.
Good. That way each member is taking a look, taking some time to look each month to see if there's something that's missing or needs to be updated. A lot of times, you have a temporary persistent link. I noticed on, and here is good. There's no issue there, but I think it was on either, I don't know which page. It could have been Trails. Must have been Trails. It was the event for tomorrow night. It's listed as a persistent link, which really persistent links shouldn't be used that way. When you create something on the page, you have to actually unclick it so it doesn't show up as a persistent link. If it indeed then is used that way, then you got to just remember that you've got to remove that. Anyway, speaking of that, I've got to go, and I'm thinking of the suffrage committee page. This is probably way outdated. So then, review of social media, do's and don'ts. Do not share paragraphs of information, which I know we are guilty of. Between the selectman's office and it's much easier for us to cut and paste, right? And try to create a post of our own. So we have to get better on this. Excuse me. Do use social media to redirect people to our website. That is what in their marketing is what the social media should be for, getting them to our website. So that means that we better have a improved website. One thing I didn't, I'm going to get back to the paragraphs here because I think they also said that that was where I had a question. So back up to the website, they said that you should not have a long bar at the top, and I said, okay, so I don't know, we have at least 5 things across the top bar. Is that too much or too little? So I've asked them to say, so when you say that, do you think we have too much? One other thing I think we do is same thing as we do with social media. We have too many words, too much information, like blah. So we've got to narrow that down, I think, and reduce the number of steps to get to things. Some of the conversations we've had, but now they're in black and white. So there we go. For municipalities, social media is a useful tool, and we all know this, providing residents important reminders and deadlines, relaying updates on important. I'm not going to read all those because we're pretty familiar with all that, but it's what we need to do is take all of this and then figure out how we're going to launch this and convince everybody else that this is what they need to do. And not that we do this 100%. I already just said that we do a lot of things that are not quite how we should be doing them. D, do not have a handful of accounts on the same social media platform. Now, I know we've had discussions about this. We have reduced some, right, Leslie?
Yeah, so I closed the Adventure Camp Facebook page and the Purely Rec Facebook page. So Rec just has one.
What about we were talking about that, and this is one other thing they say, you should not have a social page for an event or a campaign. And I know there was one for the turkey trot. Did that get?
Yeah, so the turkey trot page still exists, so we'll have to think about how to fold that into trails, because turkey trot is a single event that's put on by trails. So trails is, you know, a department or committee, and how to kind of fold that in. It's just difficult when you do that because you lose people who might follow one and not the other. So I don't know, really going through and listing all the people who are on the turkey trot page and then inviting them to like whatever the page is that we're, you know, folding that into is something that, and this would be the year since turkey trot is kind of, you know, off, you know, schedule. And
Ryan and Charlie, I mean, that makes sense, right, to you
I
guys?
don't think it should be a separate page. It should be in with trails.
yeah,
But obviously we need to give administrative privileges to someone like me, or I can't update the trails page. I can the turkey trot page. So I would need access.
who has access to the turkey trot page?
I know I do. I don't know if anyone else does.
Oh, do you have access to trails, Brian?
No. As
No.
far as I know, the only active person that can post on there is John.
Okay.
Yeah,
Somebody has.
that brings up 2 points. First is that if we're going to make a change, we might want to turn trails instead of just Thompson Trails Committee into more of a group page. But the other thing is maybe, if I'm understanding this correctly, the intent is to not have a half a dozen different social media pages, but to link it all back through one, like the Town of Thompson Facebook page. And then when turkey trot becomes an issue, send people over to the link of Thompson Trails Committee page on the official website. Is that correct?
You're exactly right, Charlie. I just was a little apprehensive because I know that Trails is a very active, and I didn't know how attached you guys might be to your own page. And like Leslie said, there is a process that you would have to follow to migrate that. I think it makes sense, and you guys are active. So one of your volunteers or a couple of your volunteers should have admin rights on that. Right now, Karen Gerlach has, I'm sorry, I'm confusing the page with the Facebook, so I'll take that back.
Yeah, the people that I know with admin rights are Alicia Underhill and John Kerchinkus. And I don't know how many people could have admin rights, but I think probably one page that I visited recently had at least 3 people. So we might be able to expand it, but the idea of turning it into a group is something that I think that we could use some guidance on, but I think that we may have come to a time when it would be advisable to do so.
Can I say something? I'm reading that, well, I read that certain thing and I didn't take it that way. And I could be wrong, that everything should be under, say, you know, a Thompson page and no others. I took it where it says not every department or town-sponsored campaign be in the operative word, or event should have its own Facebook. So turkey trot should
Brian,
not.
I think you are correct about that in essence, but I do also think that we've heard in a number of these
Yes.
Meetings that having multiple pages actually fragments the effect that you want to have, which is to get people to go to the town for information.
Right.
There are some compelling reasons to keep a recreation page separate. And there are probably some compelling reasons to keep trails separate for a while, but like when DPW split off and made their rogue page, that really should be under the Town of Thompson. It is the Town of Thompson that is giving out information for its
Right.
residents in an official capacity.
And I think And it drives the people. So if they're coming for DPW stuff, they're going to catch other things in the processes, which kind of what you want is the exposure.
Things like trails that are so active, you're talking about privileges. You can't give 40 people privileges.
No, that was
So
another thing.
There's instances where it makes sense to have like a trails page. And if Turkey Trot wants access, they go to the focal person for trails instead of giving out extra accesses, because that's its own little ball of wax.
But it's still a town department. I mean, a town committee that doesn't really have staff. So that actually makes it tougher to have its own page and keep it updated. And I know it's in recent times, there might be more activity on it, but it does go dark. And it has gone dark. And that's not what you want to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
I think an ultimate goal, I'm not saying let's do it right this minute, and I don't know how far down the path you go, but I think it should be wrapped in, because you know what? That's a benefit to everything else. Because they're busy and doing great things, it's a benefit to the rest of the town. So when people come to us for trails, they're going to land on, oh, maybe our restaurants, or so that's where the tie-in is. If you're getting them all back to the town's page, that's what we're trying to do. So, but that's up for more discussion, because we are not doing all of this in one
Right.
night.
And we're not looking to have a bunch of people. For example, Alicia Underhill serves no purpose as having admin. She's not
Right.
a member of Trails.
Right.
And generally, if Charlie or I want something posted, we message it to John and he'll put it out there. I would hope I would have admin, since I am still over Turkey Trot, and so I can post stuff about that without going through John. So no, we don't need a whole bunch of people, just 2 or 3 of us, because we work with each other, through each other, to post things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 3 is manageable. It was just kind of a warning, because I've seen this turn into a.
No. And most people on the committee wouldn't want access anyway.
And you're right, Brian, because like we've even found, like on the town page that, myself or the intern or Marie or here, like we have a lot of admins. So, we're not as consistent in having a calendar. And then that's what a piece of this is, creating that calendar where we're not, like, I post something and then not knowing that Renee has plans to post something later, so it's like,
Right.
if you have too many admins, that's what can happen.
Yeah. And we'll get to the intern too a little bit later. I think that we can have some discussion about that. But I while we're talking about admins, I think someone in addition to Karen, and maybe that can be an agenda item, should be made admin on the Trails page. She travels a lot. She's not always around. I mean, she's pretty good at, she puts the agendas up, the meeting, but when there's anything a little bit more tricky, she does ask me to put it up, which is fine. But I think one more person in Trails, because you have a good active group, makes sense.
Well, I believe that Tira is the staff liaison. Is that correct, Tira?
I actually don't think that I am an admin on Trails.
I mean, it's important. I think you and I kind of trade off in it, because we do recognize that there should be a staff person there, and you've been going a lot because.
Oh, you mean, am I willing to do? Yes, I'm willing to do. I currently don't think that I have admin capabilities on the Trails page of the website.
I'm saying that as the like for meetings, you're kind of that. Well, you and I, if I can't be there, you're there. If you can't be there, I'm there. So it's.
But I have to say, I mean, you all have other parts of your job, and we have such a fantastic Trails committee.
Yep.
Let's leave some responsibility there, I think, because they're willing to take it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we're willing to take it, but we're going to need some training on that, and also on how we can make a more robust interaction with Facebook and other social media links.
You're right,
too.
Charlie. We need that
all
for
of
the
us,
town
Charlie.
side too.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Town books. Okay, town's Facebook should be representative of the town and reinforce the brand. Make sure Facebook profile is up to date, which I saw that in there just today. I haven't gone on to even look. I mean, there's a profile, and I don't know if it's ever been re-looked at since we've started the new website. So I will look at that, but that should be something on somebody's job list, perhaps the intern or part-time person. And this gets back to what Leslie was saying, improve the cohesion of all marketing efforts across platforms and media outlets, because we're all pulled in different directions, and we're afraid that, oh, this isn't getting up. It gets up 15 times by, no, not 15 times, but quite a bit by the three of us, or we've lost a little of the cohesion because we are not having great success with our new intern. We've met with him on several occasions to try to improve the situation as far as scheduling posts and all of that, and it doesn't seem to be working out. So we are going to probably be looking to in a different direction in the next couple of weeks. We extended he had a probation period that was up October 31st, and before that we decided to extend it to November 30th to give us a little more time to evaluate. And in his defense, he works for FedEx, and he is getting geared. They're getting geared up too, so he's getting pulled there. So that's part of the issue. But I have to say, I believe prior to election, when we were with our last intern, as much as we thought I was pulling my hair out, there was much more cohesion. I mean, he was in almost every day, Monday through Thursday anyway. So there was there was just a lot more planning and laying out, and we lost a little of that through COVID. We lost him and all of that, but we know the importance of it. And now that the election is over, I think things have calmed down in my office. I'm starting to feel like I'm getting back on track with some of this stuff too. I continue to refine formal social media strategies and policies. And to that point, I have a social media website committee meeting tomorrow to discuss this and the calendar that we are planning to add to the website. It's an event calendar suggested through the marketing plan, as you may have seen. So we're meeting with the social media committee to talk about how that should look, how we should process that. Getting back to admin on that, just as we're talking about it, the calendar can work very much like that form. So they would go up and they contact us form. It would very much look like that. They want an event and they'd have to answer all these questions. And then somebody who has admin would have to update that. What I'm going to suggest tomorrow is that the major players have access to do that calendar. I'm not sure how we can limit that though, and that's another question I have to have with Civic Plus, because if that's on the main page, you almost have to have admin for the whole site. I have to narrow that down because I was thinking, okay, rec should have access, library, somebody from trails, people who have events should be able to just upload their own. And then all the other little things that people earlier don't do much, and they, we don't want to give out access, that one of the admins, the main admins would do that for them. But we still have to flesh that discussion out, and that's happening tomorrow.
Is that a Zoom meeting?
It is at 1:00. I can send it over if you want to participate.
I think I might, yeah, I should be available.
Okay. Encourage town officials, departments, and other community contributors to provide content for all platforms, which we've struggled with, is getting certain departments use us all the time, like tax always is, a big one. And we're always a co-host on the rec event. So we automatically, are sharing that stuff. And so that's happening pretty regularly. And we have our intern go into to trails, to Historical Society, to the library, and share anything that, that seems relevant to the whole page. So what the difficulty is more with, your commissions that you know, have their monthly meetings and that's about it. And some of the departments have not been, you know, haven't been forthcoming with all, you know, they just, either they don't think about it or they don't have anything they feel that they could, you know, have us post. All right, so I'm not going to read the rest, but the rollout of the logo and the taglines. I wanted to hear from somebody else on what, I mean, one of the things that I picked up from Tira's, the OCD thing is develop a style book for all town communications. Tara, you want to delve into what that would look like? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's just sort of standard practice for organizations that have branded materials, packages, is especially if you're communicating outside your organization. You well, kind of like when we added the Instagram and Facebook to the bottom of all of our signatures, right?
Right.
It's communicating in recognizable ways that make people have an automatic sort of associative link. So that means using branded stationery, you know, possibly dropping the logo in that same e-signature, using fonts that are consistent, at least in headers and titles when you're creating documents. Style is something that kind of gets embedded in people's ideas of who you are. I mean, the logo is the most obvious representation of it. I mean, you know, and a style book is that. It's fonts, it's colors, it's when to use things and where. It doesn't have to be like super granular like it would be for an organization like Disney. But we should be, and by we, I mean anybody representing the town, staff or volunteers, if we are communicating officially, this is what it should look like.
Okay, can you guys see the style guide I put up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I just thought I don't know if everybody had a chance to see this.
So I'll need to check to see, for example, I'll start sending emails that are either in Montserrat or Gabriella. I'll set my default so that those things are matching.
Perfect example. Perfect example. And
yeah.
so those are the kind of details I think, I mean, like you, I mean, I know it's not gonna have to be that, but I think that's a great idea. And so I know Leslie and I had talked about this, so I'm putting her on the spot to see if she would work with me to kind of, to work on what the style guide would be that we then present. So we want to create the style guide that we're going to present to the Board of Selectmen, which then we would hope that they would embrace. It sounds like she saw this at a meeting and liked it. So I was hopeful that they'd embrace this and then help us encourage compliance with the other departments. So I think that would make sense, right? If we kind of work on this and maybe we have a meeting in between, like we have a special branding meeting, look at the guide, say, yeah, this is what we want to go forward in presenting to the Board of Selectmen. I just don't know.
Yeah, so I would suggest just making some dummy documents that use these things to say, this is what it's going to look like when you send an email. This is what it's going to look like when you send a letter. This is what it's going to look like on an envelope. You know, just create examples, because I can say those words, you know, always use the fonts,
right.
Always use this. But what does it really look like? Because not everybody visualizes. And we've now seen this ad nauseum. So we can probably abstractly visualize what it would look like even without having, but others will not be able to do so.
Right, right. And there are, I don't know if you saw all of, you probably didn't get all the files. The one I like of the logo, and I know I'm sidetracking, was the one that actually, they had another outline here that actually outlined above this, the tower, the bell tower here. Anyway, that's just another picture of it, another use of it. So, okay, so Leslie, I mean, I don't know what your schedule's like, but do you have time to work on something with me on this?
Sure.
Okay, we'll work that out. I was thinking I did invite her to attend. Amy's not in, right? No. I was hoping maybe.
She might be at Ed.
Board of Ed, yeah, that's true. Because I really want, I mean, I'd love to hear their suggestions. You know, or if they're not going to get behind this, it's going to be difficult in some ways to get the departments on board. You know, should we do it at department head meetings? You know, what kind of
Renee,
roll up should we do? Yes.
you made brief mention to Amy was at some meeting and she seemed to be enthusiastic about it. We discussed it at the EDC meeting, and I specifically asked her what's the next step, because I didn't want to run into something like we did with our project at 65 Main Street. And Tira and Brian's who were there, I think will say that this was correct. I got the impression that she mostly wanted this presented to the Board of Selectmen as a courtesy, but envisioned that we would be doing the refinements of it. So if we've got to do some refinements, Tira had a good suggestion. Show them what it would look like on a piece of stationery or an envelope or an email page, and drop that along with the whole marketing plan.
I think it makes perfect sense, Charlie, and maybe we can even do it where we're it's up on the screen, right? And they're seeing these colors. Oh, my internet connection.
One thing, Renee, to think about is, you know, we're nearing the start of a new calendar year.
Yeah.
Or a new budget year. So we should think about two phases, as in like what needs to happen maybe on like January 2nd.
Yep.
And what's going to happen on July 1, you know, because we're not going to get it all done. And can we do something by, you know, January 2nd? Like what is that? And then what's the, you know?
Yeah, I did put that there. I think it should be easy enough, but we have to, of course, put all those ducks in order to do all the things that are not going to cost us anything. Like Tara said, at the bottom of your email, changing the font for your email, you know, who has letterhead that they buy? I mean, I have it in my computer that I print. So, you know, this is easy to plug in there to create your own letterhead on the computer and use this instead of the town seal.
That also creates a big question that like I've had kind of when I arrived, that we were going through some stuff like redoing business cards and like getting everybody's business cards to look the same, but then like, you know, even return envelopes and letterhead and, you know, like all that stuff. So that's a whole nother question.
That is. And you know, what's happened is everybody has their own little thing. It may be using the seal, but you know, some people have 1,000 envelopes in their cupboard. They're not going to go out and buy new envelopes.
Yep.
I don't envision that, but I think the stuff that's free, you know, all of that should be launched kind of at the same time.
Yep.
I mean, like when John came in and he put the Instagram and the Facebook, he went to every computer in the town hall and did it for them, which was cool, so that they didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, in the interest of frugality, the departments that do send a lot of mail, I mean, just are they ordering their own directly, or are they ordering through Marie or Kelly when they run out? Because if they're ordering through Marie or Kelly, then that problem is solved. Once they run out, they've got new. Oh, so they order directly. So then, you know, there may be some persuasion that has to happen if somebody for some reason is attached to a certain look. You know, that is the place where, in fact, you're right, that having the endorsement of the Board of Selectmen to say we are going to do this is helpful. I mean, I hardly send any mail, right? And what I do send is mostly email that is on letterhead in PDFs that people can print out. I don't have any envelopes. If I need one, I go grab one from Cindy's office, but Cindy does send mail, right? So, you know, you just have to identify who's got what, how much do they go through. Is there going to be resistance, which I think in most cases there probably won't be, but where there is, you know, what's the persuasion point, and you know, how much of a fight are we willing to have to get them to comply?
Well, I mean, the whole purpose of doing the marketing, and it does hinge on getting people's buy-in and using it. So,
You know, the way to do it, Renee, is when you present it, is to take fonts.
you mean when we present it?
Yeah. When we present it, it's to take fonts, and I can actually steal this presentation from somebody who presented on branding and in the camping industry, is to take fonts from like that are recognizable. Like when you see that font, you can name that company.
Oh yeah.
If it's even if it's not the company's name, because you recognize it.
Perfect.
You know, or without the company's name, you see that logo and you know what that company is. So you just present it in that way, and people then understand that these things are in their brain, and that's what we're trying to do.
Hey, Leslie, that branding thing that tomorrow, is that something I had to register for?
I don't remember, but I have it on my, I'll check in the morning. But yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, I'll check.
Yeah, okay.
So I would just, you know, give examples of what, you know, if we're trying to argue like why it's important, we all know why it's important, but if you show that, then those examples, then they'll sort of see like, that's what we're trying to work towards, having consistent font and, you know, like not, you know,
right,
having it be that way. I mean, I think people will get it.
That's why I think.
Yeah, I mean, the only substantive objective that I think you may get is that an office that sends out a lot of mail that is somewhat more business oriented, let's use the tax office because we know they send out a ton of mail, might not want to use that full logo, but they can certainly use the text bars.
Yeah.
Right. The images to the
That's especially
right.
why I was interested in the text bar Stira, because, you know, it's just a smaller, piece of it.
Yeah, and I can see us doing, you know, we could do 2 presentations, one for department heads, one for staff, because a lot of times it's the staff that are generating the documents too. So it'd be nice to, like you said, to really sell them on it. And then I already talked about the calendar, which is the last thing on this document. But before we get off this style guide, I had asked, and I don't know what other people feel, that they show us one that has the wave. You know, where we have the green, Thompson in green, Thompson, Connecticut, find your way, and then they have it in blue. I wanted that to have that wave.
Same.
Like Leslie, that was your suggestion, and I really liked it, but he never got back to me with that. Is that something we want to pursue?
Yeah,
I personally think that would be better because then it ties much more directly to this image.
Okay.
And still keeps that sort of sense of motion.
Yeah.
I mean, these are good on their own, but they are not as identifying, even as adding this little embellishment.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Glad. So let me open the OCD document. Let's see, what's it called? Here it is. Ryan, I think the trick was with this is that I needed to update so that update is letting me function properly with my Mac and Zoom. All right. So Tara sent this over, which I sent to you. I did, of course, I hope I did the right one. Here, did I send my
that looks like yours from today, yes.
Yeah, it's yours from today.
Oh, it just looks more spread. It looks better than it did before. I don't know why. Anyway, all I did was go back to the Sullivan and Lashane. Oh, I spelled that right. I put Shane. Document. And instead of just pulling out the piece where it's the green and growing, they actually gave us 3 distinct things, right? So the advantages of being accessible. Then we've got the green and growing, and then being committed to green and growing. So I just thought it was a fuller representation of what we ended up with in the plan. So I think the first one anyway was from before the plan was finished. So did anybody else take a look at this?
Yeah.
Anything to?
I think she's also asking for comments, guys.
Okay, well, I have
Not just acknowledgement.
Well, I don't want to. Yeah, I made some notes. Just in the the second section, keeping things consistent. One thought, you have down first page, Thompson brings all the advantages. And section A there, it says within reach. I would take out right here because you said right here 5 words ago.
So
I can edit it for style, Brian, and I will. I mean, I think,
Yeah, that's why I
correct me
didn't
if I'm
want to get
wrong,
into
Renee,
it.
but yeah, this is a copy paste more or less, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I cut that exactly from the plan.
Yeah, so I'll rephrase it to match the style of the document a little more, and that is going to include some language tweaks, but I think it's what's the content? Is there anything here that we don't want to carry into the POCD, or is there anything that's missing here that this group of people thinks could be more fully expressed? Because really, it's only, well, I have the original one before Renee's edits in my hand, but that's a page and a half for an organization that has been one of the most active in pushing a lot of these ideas forward. So I just want it to say what everybody wants it to say. So the individual language choices and grammar and that kind of thing, don't sweat that, because I'm going to go back in with a style comb and sort of tease it all out. But
As I'm looking at this, see, I didn't read it too well, I suppose. I just went in and grabbed those. We don't even have find your way here. Right? In this.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that.
interesting. Yeah, I hadn't really.
So maybe instead of reach.
Well, and you know why that is, because that wasn't one of their original suggestions. That was Charlie.
They
That
wrote
was
this doc-
Charlie.
they wrote this document before they came up with Find Your Way, and then they worked on the logo, and then we talked, and Charlie said Find Your Way, and then that's where they stuck it in. So they never went back and updated this document.
Yeah, but I can't take all the credit, because there were 2 phrases in the body of text that we were looking at. One said, find your way in Thompson, and one said, find your way to Thompson. And I simplified it.
Just Thompson, Connecticut, comma, Find Your Way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody had that idea ahead of me, but when I saw it, it just made sense.
Does.
And that was also in discussions of taglines. So this section is discussing the feeling, right? What we're trying to encapsulate, and then the Find Your Way is what encapsulates it. So that is something that I'll have to incorporate into this text.
Yes. Brian, you had other notes maybe?
There was nothing on here that I thought, of crossing out or anything. It was, if like Kira said, stuff that we can go over later to make it more consistent is all.
Yeah.
I am very interested if you guys have any additional action steps, bullet points. I need to rephrase this section a little bit, but
I think, Tara, well, am I on off mute? Am I off mute? Yeah.
go ahead.
I think you should put some deliverables in numbers of like Facebook reaches or likes or followers and Instagram.
Hold our feet to the flame because we don't look at those, and we said we were gonna.
I look at them sometimes, not regularly, like not in any consistent way, but I think, you know, and I think that's something in the calendar, Renee, that we should talk about when we're talking about like updating the website. Okay, well, how, you know, our review or look through of it, is that done every month? Is that done every 6 months where an outside folks are looking at every pages and we're combing through and updating stuff? Is it, you know, the same way? Like, are we looking at our Google Analytics monthly or, you know, quarterly? Are we, you know, I don't know.
So, Tara, what time frame are we looking on? Like, so when we establish this style guide, would that make sense to include? And again, it's not going to be pages on pages. That makes sense to incorporate that into this or refer to it?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think of a style guide much more as the physical or the visual aspects of it, but it is probably worth reiterating some of the stuff about how often all of these things get done, if only because nobody's in the habit of it. So the more you repeat a thing, the more likely it is to stick.
So maybe this thing that Leslie and I are going to work on is style guide and, you know, it's a
Style guide and best
plus.
practices for social media.
Yeah. And then and in some ways it will hold our feet to the fire a little more. Let's hope.
Tara, I think you should put something in here about, you know, digital communication of like a town newsletter, you know, so.
Well, just, there is something in another section. So earlier in the document, there is a subsection on civic engagement. And hold on, because I've got the hard copy draft in my lap here. And that's something I worked on mostly with Renee and Charlene. That was a smaller group because we had some time one afternoon at Town Hall. Where are you, little section? Oh, that's why I'm going in the wrong direction. So in section 3.3 talks about the issues of it, but then in the suggested action steps, refine municipal website for greater ease of navigation, reduce number of clicks required, lower barriers for residents to participate in public meetings. That's not relevant to this particular conversation. Formal policy, that's for meetings. Increase the frequency of online communications to residents by local government via regular emails sent to web subscribers and frequent updates to the website and official social media pages. The latter will be the primary responsibility of the social media intern. Transition the Selectmen's update to a primarily online mode of delivery with print copies available as a secondary option only. This would enable more frequent publication with fewer space constraints. Alternately, an additional monthly or quarterly online-only newsletter could be added while still producing semi-annual hard copy Selectmen's updates.
Does it make,
periodic
I was just going to say, instead of, would it make sense to reference that, just reference that in this section?
Yeah, I mean,
Refer
I
back
think there's probably
to
going to be
blah, blah,
some
blah.
places where, yeah, there's going to be some places where there's some repetition. We already know that, because there's so much crossover between so many things that we're doing, right?
Right.
Trails and recreation and economic development. have things that they're working on together, and consequently references to things do come up. But yeah, the digital communication, what I do try to do is phrase it slightly more towards
Right.
the piece of it that's being addressed. Calendar of updates.
But that's certainly got to be part of the marketing. We really didn't address that in here at all.
Frequency of communication. Yeah, I've got some notes here. Okay. I'm sure I can do something, I guess, is the short answer.
Under promote outdoor recreation assets, number 2, do we want to add, because some of the key sites are historic, we want to add the Thompson Historical Society in that bullet? Bullet 2.
Yeah, I
Yes.
see where you are. Yeah. Yep.
I wonder if you develop an online print for so we have other continue develop of the train and other trail assets. Do you want to change that to other outdoor recreational assets, or do you want to separate that out? I mean, we have other, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I had kind of thought in that moment about being specific about trails in reference to the Trail Town report, but it's not inappropriate to say, you know,
you could do other
outdoor
trail
recreation.
assets, comment, comma, and other. I mean, you could still highlight trails and then throw recreation in there.
I agree, because, and especially with a couple of the segments of the plan of conservation and development, we were looking at more expansion of bicycling opportunities that would be on the road. Kira reported that it looks like we're going to get money to build the bridge across the Quinnebog River at the Army Corps property, which will really tie Bull Hill and
Well,
downtown.
that is a slightly more optimistic thing that I said, Charlie. Ed Greeno of the Army Corps said that he thinks they have the best chance right now of getting that funding. That funding has already been on some level approved.
Right.
It just hasn't been released.
Right.
Okay.
So we meaning the town of Thompson, aren't getting bupkis out of that. That is all in the lap of the Fed.
That's
Which
okay,
is
as
good.
long as they finish the bridge.
Yeah.
Because
Agreed on that part.
that gives us a much more viability as a destination for bicycle riders to come in, ride their bikes, stop and get a pizza and a beer, and you know, anything else that goes along those lines. Really.
Yeah, my only caution there, Charlie, is that I just don't want to be over promising things that have absolutely nothing to do with our ability to touch them.
Okay, so not specifying that we're going to see this bridge go in, but that we are emphasizing bicycle safety and bicycle transportation in the town, as opposed to just trails. So to that point, other outdoor recreation, canoeing and kayaking and fishing and those kinds of things. They're all part.
What else we got, guys? I mean, obviously, because this is a committee with which I am very, very, very involved, I'm very able to come up with a list of action steps here, right? Some of the sections, the action steps were hard to determine. We could probably go on for another page, really, if we really wanted to. So this, you know, the suggestions that have been made here, I'll take in. What else is it? I mean, what is the brand? What is the find your way? How are we making it find your way now at this point, right?
See, this is where I almost think it would be beneficial to pull that group of like not so involved people that we met on that Friday morning at the library to pick their brains again. Because we are so,
We could
like you said,
certainly send this piece out.
because we're
I don't think
so,
we're going to get them in.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, we're just so immersed in it, like you said. I mean, and it's nice to have fresh eyes on things.
Yeah, what I think probably makes the most sense is to send the updated draft of this section now, so that to that group, because I don't think we're going to get them for another meeting.
Okay.
I think we
But-
can get their comments.
That, I would think that makes sense. And at what point would we, release to them what we've gone with as far as the marketing strategy, the logo and all that stuff? I mean,
I think they've earned the right to see it before other people in the public, and really even before the Board of Selectmen, because they were a part of the creation in that last brainstorming session. I mean, that was all under this contract. I think having the visual side by side with the text here that we're asking them to comment on puts it in a kind of symbolic context. So I would absolutely think it's a good idea to send them the style guide that we just had, the encapsulation from Sullivan and Lashane, and then, hey guys, here's these 2.5 pages. What are your instincts seeing this? What speaks to you? Does this make you happy? I mean, really.
Yeah.
And some of those people will have seen this because some of them are here, right? You're here. The Bryans are here. I mean, everybody in this group was in that group. And then the outsiders are Steve and Andrew Silverman, Rob Werge, Kais, and Judy's seen a lot of this because she's in the POCD group. So she's read a lot of this as well. But she was there and should certainly get a chance to weigh in on what came out of it.
As long as it's clear, I mean, we're just clear that this is what we've chosen and we're going with, and here's where, this is what we're looking for input on, basically. But yeah, I think it would make sense. So are you, is that something you will send, or did you want me to send it from branding, or you've been communicating with them, so I'm fine with that.
I don't really care who sends that piece of it, Renee. I'm going to end up doing this editing bit based on this meeting. So if you want me to just send it to everybody at once instead of sending it to you to send out to them, well, that's fine.
Sure.
I don't,
that makes sense. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, like that.
And I will read this piece more closely tomorrow again once I have a little more energy. But good. Anybody else?
Well, I got to get back in the swing of things now from vacation because I had that week off. So my work pattern is broken, right? I've got to get back into make the edits, get them out the door by a certain time, work on the next section. And we've got that workshop tomorrow. And we lose Wednesday this week. So my whole work week is kind of kooky for that reason, but I think I can probably get it all out the door. I got 2 little grants to get out by Friday too, but they're tiny.
Oh, the other thing, I'm just looking at the last section here that's not very developed, public engagement. I think I'll put some thought into that too, because I know we had some ideas on the next steps. So.
I would like to say I updated my Microsoft platform, and I don't seem to be able to find some recent emails. So including the one that you're looking at here, I can't find it. And so if you could send that back over along with the information about tomorrow afternoon's meeting. And the last point is I really like our logo and tagline a whole lot better than one that I saw recently from Western Connecticut that said, "Fall with us." And I thought, what? Okay, autumn, yeah, okay, but fall. I'd much rather say find your way than fall with us, but okay.
Hey, Charlie, you sent some
Yeah.
pictures. Those pictures are for tomorrow?
Those pictures are something that I tried to send them out earlier today, and then somebody sent me a note and said, how come I didn't get any content? I went back and looked, realized that when I posted them on my own Facebook page, it was only to my friends, really. I narrowed it down. I got tired of gaslighters jumping on everything I was saying, so I narrowed down who most of my posts go out to. Then at the same time that I had tried to share to other Facebook pages, I tried to send it out to this group that you started regarding this meeting. And I thought, oh, send it out again just in case after I edited for who gets it. Tara, really, I would like to know if those photos of the Pomfret project could be available for tomorrow night when we're looking at if it's not
I think that, well, I think the format for the presentation is pretty well set, Charlie, but what you should do is email them to Stephanie and ask her if there's a place for them. I mean, there are definitely some pictures of the Pomfret kiosk. Those have been in there all along.
Yeah, the ones that I took yesterday demonstrate that there's 4 separate display areas for the bulletin boards. The photo that we looked at last week that Paul put up, you couldn't see that it was open in the middle. At least I don't recall it looking that way. And this
I'm
one
opening the
shows-
picture now, Charlie. It's just taking me a second. Hang on.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
so
Yeah, I mean,
it's
we
a
definitely have a picture that's like this one up in the upper right of your montage,
okay.
which is the little chalet thing.
Yeah.
I mean, these are nice. I mean,
And
it can't
public
hurt you to
art.
send it to Steph.
All right, I'll try.
But she's put quite a bit of work into that slideshow, and the thing is tomorrow. So
Yeah.
my inclination is to say, let's not give her more mechanical things to do during the day.
All right, I'll agree. And it would be, you know, they were all on my phone, so it was easier to send them into Facebook than it would be to email them. I don't have everybody's
that's fine.
email on my phone, but okay,
I mean, there'll be plenty of opportunities to share plenty of pictures.
I agree.
But you know, tomorrow is the day of the thing. So and people have worked on some presentation materials. So I think it's probably just not going to work out for this one.
Okay, I agree, but then there's some public art ones that they have at that same site that I think we wanted. I said plagiarize, but you know, something to that effect is. We spoke about public art for the branding issues and whether or not they go up there or they go in front of the town hall or across, you know, wherever they go.
Okay,
sorts of
but you know
public
what,
art.
that might be a better discussion for train wreck meeting. So we're gonna move on, if that's okay.
Sure, fine.
I don't have much to say about suffrage. We've wrapped up. We had a great 6 months. Yeah, Terry,
I
you
still have
finished
to
that.
close that.
Oh, that's
I
right.
didn't close it because I wanted the
That's right.
evaluation of the Facebook analytics from our missing intern. That's the last piece.
Yeah, I'll look at
Everything
that.
else is ready to go.
I'll look at that tomorrow. Oh, sorry. How about the River Mill? I know there was a meeting with Gumpert.
Yeah, Amy and Gumpert's lawyer, Pam Elkow, and I had a very brief call last Monday. It was probably a half an hour or so. The developer is getting to the point where he's going to want to start to present his plans and ideas directly to some of the official committees, most notably obviously would be P&Z. I believe he has agreed to dial into the MISRAC meeting on Friday via Zoom to start talking about his plans. Amy and Paul are working on whatever the the incentives around the assessments are going to be. Now that we've got that rehabilitation district in place, how do you take advantage of that? What is the other structure of the breaks that he gets to come in and do the development? Fortunately for me, that doesn't directly have to be something that I work on, because that would make my head explode. But yeah, it's sounding very optimistic. I mean, I don't think anybody's super surprised that we pushed back from sometime in 2021 to maybe early 22 to actually see any construction there. But given what transpired over this past year, I think that that's fine. And he may be just being cautious about that. I would be cautious in that position. I would want to underpromise and then overdeliver. Like it was only about a half an hour or so, and it was mostly, they had some questions about what they were allowed to do under the new zoning, to which I more or less said, anything you want, that it's been constructed in such a way that almost everything that they're proposing would be possible with just site plan review by the commission. In other words, not having to go through the public hearing process, even though in this case, I don't think the public hearing process would hurt them at all. I don't think that there is any substantive objection to anything that they're proposing or trying to do there. But how he phrases it in the application could, lubricate the process for him a little bit here and there. For example, bringing a food and beverage service business into an existing building requires site plan review by the commission only, as opposed to, say, a craft brewery or a distillery. So if he's going to have a brew pub there, I think it's got to be food. But if he just puts that on his plan as open space that could be retail space or restaurant space, because it's not going to be him opening the place regardless. It's going to be him providing a space with suggestions. Then how he phrases that in his plan makes the process easier or harder. Those are the kinds of little points that he was interested in. So I think we're going to start seeing more of that. I think there is a loose plan for him to present informally to P&Z in this month's meeting. That is, he's got to talk to Cindy first in terms of, whether it's reasonable to get it on the agenda, blah, blah, blah. There's a little wrinkle in that P&Z now wants to start meeting in person, which the guidelines would kind of enable, but that makes it much harder for us to do the Zooming portion based on what they're describing. So that would be more complicated for Gumpert.
I had some questions. Had some questions about that too, though, with us dialing back, right?
Well, that's true. That email went out to the P&Z before I went on vacation. So, and maybe even the week before I went on vacation. So maybe as long as 2 weeks ago before.
Because I think isn't it 10 in person?
It might be now. And if that's the case, because I haven't gone back and put any thought into that since I came back. I mean, I've been back a day. So yes, I would say I'm not in favor of going back to in-person meetings anyway. I think they're a bad idea. I think we get better things accomplished by this kind of forum, but the commissioners all wanted to return to in-person. With the tightening back up, this may delay that again. And really, for the purposes of the conversation with the developer for River Mill,
yeah,
having it primarily online is way, way, way better.
Yeah.
It enables him to share visually in a way that he can't otherwise.
Right.
But I'll have that conversation with Cindy and Joe.
Good. Okay. Is there much on the train wreck other than tune in tomorrow?
Tune in tomorrow.
Because we'll learn everything we need to learn tomorrow, right?
Well, it's public participation, so it's going to be kind of like what we did with the wayfinding
Yes,
public one. There's going to be some polling questions, and I think there's going to be more live Q&A at the end. We've put it aside for an hour and a half, 7 to 8:30. So I think that's intended to be an hour of the presentation stuff with some live polling questions, and then the Q&A for people to make their suggestions. But we'll take them throughout during the chat, through the, in the window, and then we're going to have a dry run, the presenters. So that's the Elizabeth and Steph from NPS, me, Paul Provost in place of Joey Martino because Joe's father passed away recently, and Lyanne Graff from TLGV. So the 5 of us are just going to do a dry run in the morning around 11, and then it'll be fresh in our minds, and we'll go online. And
great.
I've had some email, not a ton, but some email interest going, would you send me the link from before I made it? So I sent those out today. I sent out a big blanket email to all the members of the ERTD and all the members of the 12-town task force, plus the email list that we had compiled for people to reach out to. So that probably went out to about, 6 people today. So it'd be nice to get some turnout. Winnie gave us a nice shout out.
Oh, good. So wayfinding, you submitted a grant.
I did, right before I left.
That's right.
I believe the notification on that is December. I'd have to go back into my email to be sure. I think it looks good. I think that the best thing about it is that grant program is the same grant program under which that road safety assessment was done in 2016.
Okay.
And I referenced that throughout because they recommended, now theirs were more safety concerns, but wayfinding and safety are very closely linked. So it's always good to reference another state or federal program when you're seeking to complete a project. I think in general, bureaus and departments like to see projects come to fruition, especially when they were part of the advisory panel that put the recommendations together 4 years ago.
Right.
Right. Is it a lock? Nothing's a lock. Who knows? But it would be surely nice to have that money in our hot little hands.
And what was the request for? How much?
I think in the end I asked for $157,000. No match requirement. Free money. And so I got a bill from CHA. I think I have the last 2 bills from CHA in hand. I'll have to ask Kelsey if there's any more coming. So I'll pay those out of the remainder of the IOB funds from last year. Whatever's left over after I've paid out CHA, I will then encumber for the Charlene sign. That still only brings us to about halfway. I did not include that in the grant request. My conversations with the grant program guy was that was not close enough to a pedestrian or a bike sign to fit their parameters, but we're still halfway.
Yeah, it's
so
excellent.
We'll see what we can do.
Perfect. And I think we all know where 65 Main is.
Well, whether we do or don't, Brian Santos and I went through another walkthrough again right before I went on vacation because he wanted to see some more stuff. He brought another estimator with him who actually works for him, and he and Sean Copeland are still working that out for me. I was actually kind of expecting to walk in and see something delivered in my inbox from Santos about that today, but I expect, based on our conversation, that he'll have it to me this week. Okay. And then hopefully answer some questions for the Board of Selectmen and push that puppy forward. I did also send out a grant to request some money to do construction there. I asked for $25,000 from the State Farm Community Good Neighbor Community Grant Fund which again would be free money. And I should know about that by the end of November, early December. So that,
Can I ask? Did our Board of Selectmen, first selectmen have to sign off on the grant?
not to sign off on it, I did let Amy
the
know
application.
in our Thursday meeting that I was sending it in. No, she didn't need to sign off on it, but I did
I
make
just
her aware
worry
of it.
that then that's, it's money in the bank, I suppose, but if they don't push the whole project forward, what then happens with those funds?
Well, I mean, the answer is, if I walk into a Board of Selectmen meeting or into a conversation, with Amy, since she's at the office, and say, I have $25,000 of free money to push this program forward, I think that makes it very complicated to say no. But if the answer is no, I'll say, then I will send this free money back. Those are the two options.
Okay. Because that she seemed, and I don't know if that what exactly her intention was, but it seemed like she wanted to know the whole cost of the entire project before she authorizes any spending of any money on the project. So that's.
Well, she did ask for that information, and that's what the estimate from Santos and Copeland will cover. In the meantime, I already have an estimate for pieces of it. So if the opportunity exists to get some of it funded, it will kind of like the funds that are already sitting there. They're already earmarked for 65 Main.
Yeah,
right?
no,
that is a budget line item.
I support you in this. It's just I don't know her motivation. If it's
May I
a
say-
stalling, yes. go ahead.
I don't know what anybody's motivations are because they're within people's heads. But my last couple of conversations, specifically with Amy, were a lot more reasonable than the dialogue that was had in those Board of Selectmen's meetings. I mean, she's been on the property now with Santos and Copeland and me for an extensive period of time and has, at least in her head, I think, a finer understanding of what needs to be done there, really that it's manageable. And and like I said, she's aware that I sent the grant in. It's not, it wasn't a secret. So again, if free money lands in our lap, that may in fact change the dialogue in terms of what we're able to do. And go ahead,
Sure.
Charlie, what did you have to say?
Yeah, it just seems to me that what I'm hearing Tara say is she's asking somebody if they'd be willing to give us money. And if they report back, yes, they are, we still haven't had any work done. We're just lining up money to get the work done. So opposition to what's been done, what Tara said she's done is she's submitted or will soon submit a grant application to somebody who might give us a significant amount of money that we could use specifically for restoration at 65 Main Street. And it won't come out of the tax code, tax dollars of the town. And it will help the town to improve the conditions of one of its buildings, which is something that Amy stated as an objective in the newsletter that just came out. So,
Okay.
it seems like, yeah, she might still come back when Tara says, hey, we got this grant for this amount of money. And it might be that the Board of Selectmen will say, well, we don't want it, but then it's their decision to reject the grant. Would make it really difficult to get more grants from other not for-profit organizations. But it would also be something that we would have to make sure that the local newspapers, the Hartford newspaper, and the radio station and TV stations would understand that we had this money presented to us and our Board of Selectmen decided not to, which they have not done.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, we don't
the
even
meetings
have
that
it
we
yet.
had, yeah, the meetings that we had before were terrible. They were horrible. There was a lot of illogical points being made, but whatever, we're going to move on from that. Amy and I have discussed it. At the current time, I would say that I am cautiously optimistic that if I were to walk in there 6 weeks from now and say, hey, somebody gave us 25 grand to fix the siding and the roof, that would soften resistance, not increase it. I think that is probably a reasonable statement.
I agree.
You know, I think it's really hard to look free money and say, no, we don't want it. Right? And that's what I've been saying I've been going to look for all along. I'm looking for the free money. I'm not looking for match funds unless I have to, or unless those match funds can be in kind, like that grant I sent in to develop the programming. So, you know, we'll just see. It's all hypothetical until we get an award.
Correct.
Okay, so anything else? I don't have any new business. Anybody have any new business?
Oh,
Correspondence?
you can't have new business. Can you have new business on a special meeting anyway? I
No,
think
you
can.
can't. So forget it if you did. Any other member comments?
Renee,
Move to adjourn. Oh, somebody's got.
real quick,
Leslie?
I just, and we can have this conversation sidebar, but we've kind of gone quiet on Instagram since our last intern left, and just something for us to look at.
Right.
We were going, pretty quickly and had a good, following. So, and I think that we should
Yeah, it's,
add that to our action steps, Tira.
that one's a little tougher to maintain, the Instagram, I feel. It's the
Agreed.
opportunity
But it's
to
still
be-
it's still an action step for sure.
Yes.
Agreed.
Oh,
but
yes.
I think, committing to once a week, or twice a month, or, you build, you set the bar low first,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. And I heard a motion to adjourn. Charlie?
I don't know if
Yes,
you heard
I-
it, but I'll make it.
And I'll
I
second it.
said that before Leslie came on with her last comment.
Okay, Tara made it, Brian seconded. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Productive.
everybody.
Thank you. We'll see you all
Bye.
tomorrow night.
Nice.
Zoom
Right.
in tomorrow. See you then.
You eating something good there, Brian? Are you muted?
There. I didn't want people to hear me crunching. You saw me, I had a banana and now potato chips. That's my son. That's dinner.
I'm gonna go have some ice cream. Bye.
The dog came in from the garage as soon as he heard the potato chips, so.
Oh, good night.
Yeah.